Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Roll20 Presents The Sprawl. This is episode number 10. It's also going to be the beginning of the next arc of our Tales of Gothenburg. So welcome. If you haven't watched The Sprawl before, this is a great place to start. We've just done 9 episodes with the previous cast, and I will spare you the details of what happened to those characters.
The sordid details.
Things have changed. Shit done changed. But as is our tradition, my dear friends and I are going to play a little game before we play a little game. And that game is called Is It Cyberpunk? And today on Is It Cyberpunk, I asked the group if we could discuss a website. There's a website I discovered yesterday, and we talked about it briefly before the show, before we went live with the D&D show yesterday, and I thought it would be appropriate to discuss it here now. So the website in question, if you'd like to follow along at home, and hopefully if you're watching this on YouTube, the website still exists, is www.lot2046.com. Lot2046.com. And basically, I'll lay it out for you, and then we can discuss what we think of this vis-a-vis the dystopian cyberpunk future. The website says on it, the first thing you see is, Lot is a subscription-based service which distributes a basic set of clothing, footwear, essential self-care products, accessories, and media content. The clothing are dispensable. As they wear out, they can be bundled and returned, eliminating clutter. I didn't notice that until this morning. Like when I was looking at it yesterday, I didn't realize that the point here is that when your shirt wears out, you just bundle it up and send it back to them. So you just rotate your wardrobe. Now, a lot of these subscription services exist, right? We got our nerd-based ones. We got our loot crates. We got our MeUndies, our clothing-based ones. But this one is the first one that feels to me like it's an aesthetic-based subscription service. You subscribe to an aesthetic. And it is
absolutely that.
Yeah, and it feels like an art project because if you look at it, the objects that you get in the plan are like one basic black t-shirt every 2 months, one basic black sweatshirt every 3 months, one nylon jacket every year, one pair of socks, one pair of underwear every month. And then it gets weirder and weirder as you go on, right? There's shoes, there's hats, nail clippers, a tattoo gun once during your subscription. So there's just all of these like generic objects. I listened to their little like mixtape thing, the one every 3 months mixtape yesterday. It's good. It's like a little intentionally eclectic, which made me feel like this maybe isn't like a real thing. But having absorbed it, having taken a look at it, what do we think? Do we think that this concept of like dispensable, generic kind of human uniform wear is cyberpunk? How does it fit into our idea of the dystopian?
Can I add a thing that makes me feel like it is kind of like...
Yeah, I know. No, I know you have some research you've done, but let's talk about it as is, and then you can enlighten us as to some of the undercurrent. Because Blue Jay did a lot of detective work, but yeah. So what do you think?
I think it's pretty cyberpunk. The idea, I mean, I imagine this to be the very corporate side of cyberpunk in terms of like this is the thing that you would buy from whatever thing that was giant corporation that was sustaining your life,
Elixir would have one of these.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, it would cost a lot of money.
But it would be Well,
on the flip side too, it feels a little like what happens when you join Krug. Like, here's t-shirt, new t-shirt in 2 months. Wear t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like I think that what I missed on initially looking at it, a lot of people drew parallels to Project Mayhem. From the latter half of Fight Club.
Yeah,
right. 2 black t-shirts, one $300.
Well, the whole idea of uniformity, right? Of having a like aesthetic that is applied broadly to people.
Right.
I mean, it seems kind of cyberpunk in so much as it's like taking all of these things that you buy into in terms of like personal identity and like style and like commercialism and capitalism and saying like, no, you don't need that. All you need is a black t-shirt and black pants, and all that the rest of that crap is just completely unnecessary.
That to me is that part that feels like aesthetically it's kind of in that vaguely Gibsonian space, but I definitely think that's the hook for why I would say it's kind of cyberpunk, in that it is a rejection of like, oh, is that a Nike t-shirt? No, it's a t-shirt. What kind of t-shirt? a t-shirt, it's black.
Yeah.
That idea of like shedding uniformity through lack of style, right? I think is definitely a thing. But on the flip side too, the uniformity, right? As you said, Andrew, the idea of like everyone looking the same. Because there is an option here. If you look at the subscriptions, there's the basic plan and the advanced plan. There's something called the team plan, which outfits 8 people.
Where you get the whole squad.
Which
outfitted.
exactly. It's NERPs, but also anti-NERPs at the same time, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, the like debrandedness of it. It's not like you get a Nike t-shirt or whatever. You get these like very generic.
It reminds me of
very minimalist
Adbusters
things.
in a lot of ways, in that Adbusters is a nega brand, right? It's not like, even by rejecting the status quo, you are establishing a secondary alternative to it. You can't opt out.
It's just a different brand.
Yeah, you can't opt out completely. The lack of brand is the brand. It's like fucking
this is
President's
like
Choice.
This is the most Case Pollard bullshit that has existed, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's that idea of like, oh well, there's no like logo on it, but obviously this is a lot 2046 shirt because of like it's cut this way and like it has the seam lines from being in the warehouse where they're all folded the same way and stacked. And like,
and to that point, if you look at the website, the items that you're given, it's not, when you go to a website that sells t-shirts, you expect to see clothing in the shape of a shirt, right? This site doesn't give you any of that. If you look at it, they're bundled. Like
they're all
the
rectangular.
t-shirts are folded and wrapped into a little like MRE style block with a Velcro strap around.
Yeah, with the same strap, and like all the things have those straps around them. It's like there is so much branding going on, but it's all like peripheral, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
So
neat.
there is this both punk and anti-punk thing about like, and this is true of like punk as an aesthetic and as a concept generally, the idea of rebellion as counter-rebellion, and the idea of like punk as a culture has always had this problem where they're like, you're not the right kind of punk rock, you're not punk rock enough, right? Like you create a sort of semi-homogenous alt culture in response to the existing one. So even if this is like an aggressive anti-corporate kind of stance, it still contains its own kind of sub-branding like thing. Which I think is why it's so fascinating. So Blue Jay, you did a little digging.
I didn't do that much digging. I just Googled it. Okay?
Yeah, but you were the only one that looked past the website.
I wanted to know more about it. Anyway, I looked up the guy who made up the lot 2046, and he has his own website, and it's just like his like codes of practice, his own personal codes of practice, and it's actually really cool, and I'll post it.
Dude has some directives.
He has directives, yeah, and like there was an article about him, and like I guess Airbnb just bought his company, but one of the things he says is that of course, right, we shouldn't design anything, we should design the behavior rather than the product. And is a quote from there, and it's just really, it's really intriguing, but it's also, I very think like when I looked past just the stuff, I don't think it's cyberpunk. I think it's very like, you want to design people to do like things this way, and you want them to feel like they're not being manipulated.
Right, but in a way, what's interesting is that I think that the dude that made this as a project, whether it's a commercial project or simply like an expression of art vis-a-vis branding in the world, would be a great example of a pusher in the Sprawl, right? Like you're someone who has an agenda,
totally,
and pushes it by way of like, I have this aesthetic that I try to like encourage in people.
Essentially mimetic viruses, right? That's what the pusher is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And this person is doing a great example of that.
I love how he says like, don't work for corporations, fuck corporations, and by the way, I'm gonna sell my company.
I'm being bought out by fucking Airbnb.
Yeah.
Right. Well, hypocrisy is pretty cyberpunk, I think.
That's at the core
definitely
of it.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because there's that narrative throughout, right? The sellout or fight back thing, right? Where it's like, you could just buy in. You could just be like, I'm gonna stop fighting the corpse and realize that Big Brother loved me all along, and maybe I will like actually be better off, even though I'm selling these things. But I think a project like this, whether you look at it on the surface as this sort of decommodification commodity, or you dig a little deeper philosophically and look at it as a statement, I think it feels very cyberpunk because it's using things like style to manipulate the way that people think about stuff, which I think is pretty like a big part of cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is very stylish in that way. Yeah. It's very cool, whatever it is. I can get black t-shirts and pants elsewhere. I don't need them sent to me. But as an idea, as a cultural object, I think it's fascinating. It exists at least adjacent to cyberpunk, in my opinion. But I'm just saying, if there was an all black Airbnb room that I could rent in LA and go there, and I'd probably be about that. So I just want those black toothbrushes. Those are great.
That is pretty cool.
I think the idea too of having something just show up without having to think about it, to like fulfill your basic human needs, to be like, oh, my hat is beginning to wear out. It is month 11 of hat. Hey, here's a hat. It's month 12. Boop. Get rid of your old hat. Same as the new hat.
Exactly the same.
Right? Yeah. It's fascinating. Anyway, so that's a thing that I think is worth considering, whether it's cyberpunk or not.
I've scrolled far enough down on his website,
Yeah.
and one of the pictures, like, it doesn't matter what the thing is, it's just a pointless thing, like everything on here is. But
Yeah.
like the stock picture they've used to display it has got the fingerprints filed off in Photoshop, so they have completely flat fingers on the top. I like that must be intentional, and it's just freaking me out a little bit. This entire thing is really trippy.
I think that the press images are randomly seeded, and also there's a footer at the bottom that is definitely dependent on where you what you're viewing it with and where you're viewing it from. Yeah, it definitely uses like locational data to change that information. Because mine mentions both Chrome and Vancouver, and I'm sure yours are different depending on your ISP and your browser of choice.
Yeah, that's weird because mine doesn't say Seattle. Maybe I'm behind.
Well, it's IP, right? It's like, yeah.
No, I'm not in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, it does.
Right.
Yeah, mine thinks I'm in Los Angeles. Weird. Unintentionally clouding my IP or whatever.
Yeah. So
you've got to move that though. That's part of one of the rules.
Successful or not, or intentional or not, I think that the person who made this has a bit of a maybe misguided cyberpunk bent to them, which I think is cool. I like seeing stuff like that out in the world, whether it's successful or not. It's cool when people make it's the kind of artistic statement that I can get behind, whether I agree with it or not. So speaking of being artistic and making shit up, we're going to make new characters, but I want to go through step 0 today again, because I think it's going to affect the tenor of the game. And of course it will in terms of like what we get to make up and what's included in the game. But I think that the more corporations we have, the easier this game is going to be. Like, I think that if we add a bunch more corporations, the chances of, because here's the thing that happened, right? You started off high with Krug, and then the mission made Krug dislike you more, and then there were more opportunities because there's only 5 corporations.
So basically what you're thinking is if we have more corporations, it's gonna spread that hate thinner.
Yeah, exactly. And there isn't anything in the rules suggesting this, but I definitely think it'll change the balance of the game. I think that having more corps will just mean that when I have to pick, who are you pissing off, or who is this mission for or against, because there are more options, there'll be less pressure for each option.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So interesting. Do we all want to make a new, because like the process, we're essentially everyone's making new characters. So the process is that each player, including the MC, names and briefly describes a mega corporation. So we could end up with another 5 corporations. Do we want to do that? Then we'll have 10 plus the combinat.
Okay.
Maybe not entirely 5. We could
If anyone has a good idea.
If anyone's got something they
Like
want to
co-op
pitch, like
corporation.
throw it out there, yeah, and we'll I don't know. I don't have anything in my head right now. So like, if something comes up for sure, but
Right. So you're like, I'll order later, but we might get to the point where I need to order. I'm like, I'm not actually hungry. I'll just have the
yeah,
soda.
yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So yeah. Um, does anybody have an idea jumping to the forefront of their brain?
I have an idea
You got a
jumping to
thought?
the forefront of my brain.
Yeah, I've got one too. So why don't you go and then maybe I'll go and I'll give people.
Mine is inspired by the name of a metal band. So I want to make the Sun Corporation,
Nice.
but I want them to have the logo from the band where it's Sun, so SUN, and then a capital O, and then parenthesis, parenthesis, parenthesis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's a cool logo. I'm gonna just straight steal it.
Well, what's funny is they stole it too, right? Like it's
Where'd they?
from a symbol company.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
The circle with
yeah.
the waves is supposed to be someone hitting a symbol. And
Right, hitting the symbol and then the sound waves.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can picture that now that you mention it, but I hadn't connected that earlier. But yeah. And this company is the one that has the like massive solar farm belt in the like equatorial region of the Earth.
Nice.
Mhm.
Equatorial solar farming.
Nice.
So they're like predominantly a North African kind of, that's like their main area.
So they're like an energy corp.
Yeah, and then, I'm sure they do lots of weird stuff, but they have these incredibly huge solar farms in a totally inhospitable part of the planet, and they need to employ people to maintain them. And so there's this whole like sort of underground dwelling culture of people that work for them where they have to live like under these solar farms and service them and have like crazy Fremen like still suits and stuff where they go out onto the deck and it's like horrifically hot and they have to be like maintaining these solar panels.
Or getting running drones to maintain them.
Yeah, or like they have to go out at night and it's super cold at night and they actually need to like fully cover up and it's like these crazy windswept alleyways of massive solar panels and mirrors and yeah.
Oh yeah, and they have hella problems with windstorms and dust storms and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Covering
Like it
up
seems
all
like
of the-
a really interesting setting.
Yeah, hell yeah. They sound awesome.
And they also most definitely have at least one satellite up in orbit that can channel the power that gets taken from there into a massive laser beam.
Oh yeah,
That
they
can
have like a
just
microwave.
like blow things up.
Because otherwise,
Well,
otherwise how are you
It's
going to
for
fight
mining.
Akira?
It's totally for mining.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not
actually
for-
like a legit way to do a power plant as well, is to have a microwave
Yeah.
transmitting satellite. So it's a solar farm in space, which is the most efficient place to put a solar farm. And then, yeah, you just like fire all the energy down. You have a big dish that receives it. But of course, as Dave pointed out, you can just point that somewhere else and
Yeah.
wreak havoc on shit. So yeah, they have a bunch of like space stuff as well. And also because they're an equatorial company, they're in the best place to launch satellites from.
Yeah, I think that they're like all things like space too. Like they definitely have some kind of like space program and
Yeah. Like it makes a lot of sense given their geographic positioning.
Yeah.
What do they need all that energy for if not to shoot rockets into space?
So like asteroid mining.
Yeah, and rather than fire fossil fuel powered rockets, they have these like massive mag rails, so it's electric, and they spend like months powering up these capacitors, and then they fucking just like
They just
catapult you
they just
into
like
space.
railgun stuff into space.
So
Yeah.
so launching is still a thing. We don't have like they don't own the like Kilimanjaro space elevator.
There is no space elevator now.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever described any materials technology in the setting that would make a space elevator viable.
Okay.
That's my sci-fi nerd.
No, I'm into
opinion on
it. Well, and that's what we're doing, right? Because the corps are establishing the world, not just like
Yeah.
this is a corporation that does stuff. And we talked a little bit
Well,
about whether
Yeah.
space shit is cyberpunk or not.
Well, and I think we made the point that it's not quite here yet and it's really super crazy expensive and that only like the most special and rich people are able to finagle space travel sort of stuff. So having a space elevator would make it
Too
little bit-
easy, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
too accessible.
Yeah, so I think that like when most people think of Sun of the corporation, Sunco. What do they think of power, right? That's their main. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's yeah, okay. And so they provide power to like our setting, like
Like the majority of the setting. I think it's like things that people still use for electricity: nuclear power and solar power, and maybe wind power.
Oh yeah, like I
Sweet.
guaranteed we've run out of fossil fuels at this point.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Oh,
no
yeah.
way that they would still be around. Water and fossil fuels basically are mostly gone. We have to get those from like trying real hard.
From trying real hard.
we gotta bust our ass really hard if we want those things. There's
Oh,
still
but
some
also-
Shell is still around, hoping someday we'll discover a planet that used to have dinosaurs.
I mean, so here's the other thing about Sun Corporation is that they are able to manufacture fossil fuels because they have, because of their position. So that some of their like solar arrays are actually about creating fossil fuels because they're an easily transportable battery for energy.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like just this massive energy monopoly, basically.
Perfect. Yeah. I like
Because
it.
some stuff still you want to have fossil fuels for. It's just it's hella fucking expensive.
Okay, cool. So I imagine, just as a means of fitting them into the existing world, they probably don't have much of a relationship with like Disney Bezos or Show Nintendo Onisoft, but definitely a relationship with Freyr for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
any like
Rare,
heavy
sure.
industry corp. they're
Krug
gonna be
as well.
closely tied to.
Yeah, definitely Krug.
Yeah.
You gotta power those big mining drills and stuff.
I mean, Krug likes to use cheap coal for that too.
Oh, yeah.
They're a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, I mean, a tie to Krug might just be that they're rivals, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. They like.
I mean, Krug
Have
doesn't make
competing
Krug
interests.
doesn't make power for anyone else. Krug makes power for Krug.
Yeah, like I'm sure they burn a lot of dirty coal because they're a mining operation and they can easily harvest it, and they just like fuck over the planet a bunch. And
Yeah.
Sun wouldn't like that because they create these massive ash clouds that prevent them from harvesting solar
Totally.
energy.
Yeah. There's some like Mr. Burns block out the sun bullshit going on there for sure.
Oh, and like they got to have like the big like mirror satellites where they can extend daylight hours in certain regions by like reflecting more sunlight onto
Oh
them.
man, yeah.
Well, yeah, and like ice like strategic ice cap melting like for water and stuff, right? Like
Yeah, totally.
yeah. We
So
can
they
was
do all
totally-
kinds of weird shit.
sun, see the light.
To get access to some of their equatorial bases, there was like a scandal towards the end of there still being like governments and stuff that mattered, where they artificially just extended the days to a point where it was always like light in certain areas, and people started going crazy because they could like never sleep properly.
Right. Like, I'm sorry, you live in an area that we've deemed requires constant 24-hour sunlight to charge our batteries. So I
So they
guess
can
you
displace
just
people.
can't.
Yeah.
You'll have to move. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're definitely involved in, because we've talked kind of loosely about how there's some kind of like most of the south to like mid United States is locked in this like horrible water war, like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico.
I was gonna try and come up with something going on in Nevada that's like with that whole conflict. I'm trying to think of something that I can throw in there.
Yeah, so they're definitely. I'm just gonna grab my other notes. They're definitely like involved in that. Like they have all these, like you said, like they basically own most of Africa, but they're trying to get into the like American like band where it's hot in the sun and stuff, and so they're having to get involved in that conflict.
Well, that might be where the conflict is. What if it's like sun and I don't know.
Well, and maybe there's room
We've
for
had-
another corporation there.
I mean, that's the thing. We've had like Freyr be over there already fictionally.
Because there's a war.
But
Yeah.
that's
Freyr
the
is
thing.
everywhere
Like
that there's
any
a war.
conflict, you're gonna have Freyr around. So
Yeah.
But like what we've already established being in that area is Disney Bezos. They're engaged in some.
yeah,
of
that's
the,
true. They
Oh,
have
they were
like-
broadcasting that war. Yeah.
They have like arcologies over in America for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm taking a lot of inspiration for like it's off screen because we don't like hang out in that place. But yeah, I think about the what is the book, The Water Knife, like a lot. I don't know if you've read it, but it's by the same the same dude that wrote wind-up girl and is
I
like,
was gonna say it sounds like
ecological. That's the other. Those two are probably my favorite like ecological dystopias. Waterknife and Paolo Bacigalupi. That's his name. Yeah, they're both really cool in terms of taking a different approach. But yeah, like the Phoenix Valley and stuff, like that whole Middle America, probably northern parts of Mexico. It's all just like wars over like the Rio Grande and the various like rivers in that area and who has rights to that water. And I think that Sun is involved in that in some way.
As like a silent backer of one side or the other that they're then strategically set up to buy out later.
Yeah, wars in the former American Southwest. Okay. All right, cool.
We should definitely have a corporation that like sells like internet space. Like some kind of corporation that's involved with things that the hacker would be involved with, or I mean, because Dave, you wanted to be a hacker, right? Do you have ideas for
like a Matrix Corp?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to go with a Matrix Corp, but I'm open to there being some stuff there.
I feel like there's got to be somebody who's got some investment in like online space, and we haven't really like said anything about that yet. I feel
the thing is, each of the corps is going to have like their own. So I mean, yeah, that's true though. We need somebody who like the infrastructure has to exist somewhere, right?
Yeah, like giant server farms and like just like selling space that's actually like virtual and has no kind of meaning or anything. Like I can see Elixir selling like virtual like AR or VR like homes almost, but I want to see somebody whose just entire corporation is just digital space. And like it's all like has no inherent value except for like they sell it anyway.
So do we feel like we've, and this is mostly a question for Andrew, do we feel like we've explored that in a way that you like? Are we good with Sun? Can we move on?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't just like jumping to the next thing.
Sorry, like the reason I like struggled to answer the question initially is I was like, I thought we were done with it.
Yeah, I was just making sure.
Sorry, that was me. I was kind of skipping forward.
That's okay.
No, yeah, it's time to move on for sure.
So it sounds to me like you've got an idea, Blue Jay.
Well, I mean, it's just like the beginnings of an idea.
Yeah, but we can look at it
more than that.
Totally. So like, do they have like a physical space, or are we just talking like inherently they are a matrix-based corp? Like, are all their employees plugged in all the time?
I think it'd be really interesting that they have no physical space. They don't have any ownership over like
geography.
Yeah, everything. Like anytime you need to go to their offices, they have like really great setups in VR, but there's no actual like. There might not even be like any humans that you know.
Oh, Blue Jay, is that idea? What? Sorry, go ahead, Elf.
Sorry, I was gonna say, what if the people who are plugged in as like their employees and the people who are accessing the Matrix as like working for this corp, whoever they end up being, are like somewhere what do you call it? Somewhere like undisclosed, like underground somewhere, like because there's no geography for them to be above ground because it's all owned by someone, right? So like you could definitely like the meat bodies have to exist somewhere.
Or maybe the meat bodies are just like sleeping plugged in like poor people that don't know that doing
also this. That also could work. Definitely.
Okay, cool. So I was gonna ask before because I didn't want to interrupt. Is the idea of a corporation, because it doesn't strike me that the idea of a corporation not having a physical location is that revolutionary. Yeah. Like I mean, not to say that the idea isn't cool, just in our setting, is that unusual? Or because like it seems to me like we're deep enough in that they wouldn't be the only company like that, unless they are.
I feel like everything that we sorry, Blue Jay, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the same thing. I feel like everything that we've described so far has a very as an interest in like physical spaces. Specifically, like Frere is very interested in like land wars. Disney Bezos has like their space that they're very attached to. Krug,
they like create curated semi-fictional spaces, right? But it's still about being a place that you can go. Yeah,
well, and that's what I mean. Yeah, like the game
like
is
the Magic
really
Kingdom
like
is
AR
a place where you can
focused.
go. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it might not be revolutionary, but I have an interest in just like a matrix corporation that literally does not exist in like the real world, quote unquote. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to me.
Hell yeah.
Having a hacker in the game, it seems like a valuable like addition, is that I feel like it's valuable to have more involvement with an internet space.
Sure. Yeah. I just don't want to go too far on it and be like, cool, you're doing a job against this company that no one can do anything except Dave. Right.
But there
Because that's
has to be
already a hacker problem, right?
Yeah.
Because like if there's a physical space, you can interact with it. But if there isn't one, you have to. I'm as a GM, I'm trying to think about how I would make
If I
them.
may,
Yeah.
I have so we have this corporation that mostly exists as like an internet entity or whatever, but like it still has people and those people still have bodies and they exist somewhere. I'm imagining like server farms of humans where it's like people in pods all in like the fetal
Yeah.
position. Like there are still actual physical locales associated with this place, but they're all really fucking weird.
And none of them are like the marketed kind of physical locale. Like you would never go there. Like
Yeah.
to engage with the corp in a legal manner, you would never go to any physical location where their employees, quote unquote, existed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they're, the whole reason that we might go there is that we are clandestine weirdos.
Doing things that are not illegal. Yeah.
Alternatively, to solve that problem, those places probably exist, but they are aggregated between like pre-existing corp like ecologies. Like it needs to be part of a deal with the corporations themselves for them to exist and provide the services, and in return they get to use some of like the meat space resources of the ecologies, i.e. the people, to like generate the
Right. So they're not
back
big.
end that they actually need.
I think there's some space here around like them. They're not big on owning, because if you own something, it's obsolete by the time you're done paying for it. They constantly lease things like people's brains and other corpse belongings. They're a sort of parasite corp.
Yeah, and I see them as being very like detached from all things physical intentionally.
So what do they actually do?
They sell like online spaces, like data storage and like probably like online internet security and like maybe a bit of like AR and VR customized spaces. They might be really into the AR that already exists in the world, like managing and designing and etc.
Yeah, I sort of see where you're going, Blue Jay. Like, I like the idea, and I like the idea of like them being sort of leasers and renters to everyone else, and they have the most development in this virtual space that they've sectioned off as like, well, you need our permission to even get through here. Our security's so good, there's no way you could do it any other way.
I like the idea that they're almost literally selling like it's just like space.
It's just space.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like this like corporation that's giant and like sells you things, and it's really just like nothing.
Remember that VR cover up that we had in the bar in the first one, the really shitty one that had like the audio and whatever? That's these guys. They make those, like they have all these what do you call them, like standard setup spaces that you could
maybe like
purchase for a fee,
Something. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was thinking like someone in chat said like banking, like in terms of like money storage, like online transfers. Like they just it's all numbers and it's all like their shit, and it's just like completely meaningless.
Like
what I'm hearing in all of this is that these people are actually like intermediaries and deal brokers for a lot of the other corporations.
Are we sure this isn't
space between?
Yeah, this isn't a corporation. It's just the nature of how the Matrix exists within our setting.
Yeah, I'm still trying to answer the idea of like, like what do they do in terms of our game? Like, how would you do a mission against them? What would they ever hire you for? Because it does, like, I like the idea of the ephemeral and the intangible, that whole like thing. But I think that it's we need something a little grabbier to like actually like put it in our world. Because like you said, Dave, it does seem like we're defining some truths about the Matrix and the universe, but not a corporation.
That's what I was trying to kind of pick at, is like maybe these people are like lawyers. They're used as neutral parties and mediators. They're used to broker deals between the various megacorps, because the complexity of all those tasks is extremely high given the like extra jurisdictional nature of everything now.
Yeah.
That this is kind of like a connective tissue kind of corporation where it's about bridging the gaps between all of these very disparate and like antagonistic elements. They make it possible
Mr.
for
Blank
them to work
was
in.
Mr. Blank was like a matrix sided like intermediary who was working closely with Show Nintendo, right? Like in this. He didn't work for the Matrix, he worked for Show Nintendo, but he was like a broker between them and various aggregated sort of Matrix-based service provider people who don't exist within their own clock.
So what would be the difference between them hiring you for a company and the company itself? Because like from a building a mission perspective, if they are intermediaries, I don't need them fictionally. I can just say some guy that works for a secret corporation hires you on behalf of someone else, and the job is really about them. When you roll and you succeed, I'm not going to tell you this Matrix company is your employer. It's really this other company. Because it would feel mean to go the other way, to be like, who's your employer? Oh, like Edgeco. They don't exist except for this job. I'm not actually going to give you the information that you wanted. I need them for them to be grabby in the game. They need to want something for themselves, not for someone else.
I mean, yeah.
I like the idea, Blue Jay. I don't know if you're on board, because this is your
I was just spitballing.
but I like the idea of them being like a banking corporation.
Yeah, I think that
the most secure way to hold money and to aggregate wealth in the very typical sense of like it is like financial wealth, quote unquote, is that there isn't a physical space where you can go and take it. You know, like there's not a bank you can go and rob. It's not around.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think that's very true of the whole setting. So this would be like an example of that. Like in this part of the world,
all the co-ops already have these.
Okay, well,
yeah, I like the idea of like a financial institution of something, but I think we can make it more cyberpunk. I think we can go because like the corporations will have their own bank, and if you work for them, they control your money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We can maybe come back to it later. I like the idea of having a corporation that's more tied into the internets.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, by nature, they all are, to varying degrees. But yeah, one that is sort of like pushing on that. Yeah, we can come back to it. If y'all want to move on. I think there's some good stuff there, but I'm not sure what.
I think we definitely. I think what we did. Oh, sorry, Blue Jay.
No.
I'm just talking a lot. What we did there was we defined a whole bunch of things that are true in everything, which is kind of cool.
We just expanded the setting.
Yeah, I mean, it serves the same purpose. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff there that I think we can just make true. Generally, right?
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out, or should I just start spewing?
Yeah, if you got some ideas, go ahead. I have a company, but go ahead.
Me too
now. Oh, if you guys have got stuff, then please, by all means, go ahead. I don't actually have like a developed
Dave,
idea.
do you wanna dive into yours a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I like the idea of it being so cyberpunk. We have consolidated and commercialized faith and belief into a single religion mega corporation.
Church co. Yeah, I'm about that.
Yep, because like that's one way to get money out of people, to make them stop focusing on the fact that their lives in cyberpunk dystopia is really shitty by giving them a constructed version or like different constructed versions for where they're based, or like creating their own personal heaven for them. If you get if you like spend loads of money on your package for like Faith Co, they'll create your own like so personal like religious doctrine and like faith and whatever for you.
And to reincorporate a lot of what we already have in the setting, this is like the company that is pushing the whole exceptional humans thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
these are
yeah,
are the
totally.
kids that own that copyright and that are about that particular thing, and they sell it, they farm it out to all the other corps.
Yeah.
This is those people, because we already have the like global, official religion of being an exceptional human.
Yeah. So it's probably called something like I was thinking like the immaterial or something. It's probably like Beyond Corp or something like that, or like further.
It's got to have that like one of those like very inspiring but ultimately meaningless words, and it has just that word as the name of the company, because it like evokes all this stuff but like is completely substanceless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a kind of generic like president's choice version of some religious word that just like is equally like religion feeling but not denominational.
Yeah, this kind of like indistinctly but evocatively religious word.
Yeah, like while we continue on, I'm just gonna Google up some thesaurus-y type
Like just
things and see if I can find a term that
unlimited,
fits.
or like something like that, where it's like it makes you kind of want to fill in
Or
some space around the word but doesn't.
I like transcendental. I like a rapture, but that's kind of denominational. Yeah, I don't know what it would be called exactly, but I really like that idea. Since we've not kind of gone into that at all, and we've not had any characters who were religious specifically.
Well,
But
I
it's
think it
still
gives
absolutely a
us.
thing you can exploit, and in this setting, it would be commercially exploited like much more.
I think
Obviously.
the thing is that there is no such thing like this company would have if you want to go like mega cyberpunk on it. I think that you can have it purchase out all of the religions, right? That like religion and brand loyalty, especially where this company like exists, are the same thing, right? Like that there is a place here for all religions, whatever your faith. Transubstantial Incorporated has you covered, right? Um, and yeah, it's like a tricky space for them to like work around, because people tend to be very protective of like religious faith, but also there are rituals, and rituals can end in payment, right? The tithe and like all of that's already there.
I like the idea of the word ascend because exceptional humans also like go to space. So ascend.
Yeah, that's definitely good.
Yeah, just like the idea.
There are
I was
lots
gonna
of
make it
ideas in
more
chat.
weird, but I'm not sure it needs to be. That
Yeah,
would just be making it overly
you
complicated.
really need to make corporate religion more weird.
Well, I mean, religion is already corporate, right? Like Catholicism
Yeah.
is a corporation.
I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's not,
Yeah,
but what I'm
I'm
saying
agreeing.
It
is
is
Yeah, I'm
both a
agreeing with you.
state and corporation. Yeah.
I also have an image in my head which looks like a giant like spider queen thing, and it like vomits out like soylent stuff that is made from like harvesting people or like
I mean, I think
people made
I,
stuff.
yeah, I
I
think
want
that's a
that to be
little.
somewhere
I
as
think
well.
that's a little
But it's not
like
the
on the
same
weird
thing.
end for this setting.
Yeah.
Like because it's like that's like in Brazil territory, not like the country but the movie.
yeah.
The thing is with this is they would have to be as appealing to, like, it has to not be embarrassing to admit that you are part of this church. It has to be a symbol of like you're a good smart person, like you're looking after your future. Because they have to get the like corporate leaders to buy in as much as they do the person who lives in the the capsule block in the arcology in the middle of nowhere, right? Like the thing about religion is that it's meant to be universal, and if they're going for some kind of like hyper Unitarian thing, it has to be universal to everybody.
I think a cool idea, drawing from San Junipero, would be people who are exceptional humans and can afford it actually get like frozen and never die because they're like cryostasis, but people who can't afford that can get their consciousness like uploaded.
Well, we talked about the like the point of the exceptional human is that you get to leave, right? That you get to leave Earth, or maybe you do. That's the promise.
Yeah, but like that's why the people who are exceptional humans or rich enough to be exceptional humans, they get like the cryostasis and sent into space to go like further and like do more or whatever. But people who can't afford that still being able to like ascend, as it were, get to just like live in, well, die in virtual reality forever.
You get to upload your consciousness into the grand data gestalt and see
Yeah.
that we will fire into space, piloting the ship full of the rich people who are
And it's
frozen.
not the
That-
same.
that gives me
If you were
such a-
exceptional, it would be better, but even if you're not, like, we still have space.
Okay, so I guess the question is, for this corporation, is this a end of the line focused religion, or is it a like daily philosophy kind of religion? Because if it's all about like funerary services and being like, all that really matters is like Christianity is focused on what happens after you die. Mostly it's like, do all these things so that when you die, something awesome will happen for you. It's not based on the world. Do these guys have that same kind of approach? Are they like, Rex Mundi, the earth is corrupt, we're not going to say it that way,
No,
but like, you'll be okay?
This religion,
It's much easier to monetize like ways
it's like
people need to
Scientology.
behave during.
It's a
Yeah.
self-actualization cult,
So okay, yeah, I like that.
right? It's about being the best that you can be in every moment, and that eventually that will lead to you getting the hell out of this place. You will rise like the cream above all the.
Right.
No,
Okay. So it's
people.
not. How does that? I guess. Okay. So the way that meshes with, it's not about if you do these things, you will be your best and you will get. It's not about hard work, because we talked about the myth of the exceptional person, and like, you can't become one. You are or you aren't. And the racket is paying a ton of money to find out if you are one or you're not.
Yeah, just like Scientology.
Yeah. Okay. So
Sorry to any Scientologists in chat, but your religion was made up by a sci-fi author and is totally fake and it's just about stealing your money.
Yeah.
It was done on a bet. It's literally a joke. It's not even like I'm using the word joke in a particular, like, it's literally a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just saying.
not derisively or figuratively, literally. So yeah, okay. So without it, I think what we want to do is find a way to incorporate both this this idea of the self-actualization cult, and like, yes, it definitely absorbed that too, because probably by the time this hyper Unitarian like ascension church thing existed, by the time that happened, Scientology was like a real religion, in so much as it kind of already is now, in that it's governmentally recognized and whatever. And maybe when the American government collapsed, Scientology turned to this company and was like, hey, we need a new like corporate patron.
We've outlived the government that
Yeah.
supported us.
Yeah. Okay. So we want that, but also it's incorporated most mainstream, like, for real religions. And I think those certainly exist, because you can't erase a culture. And that again creates the cyberpunk divide, right? Like, there are families, there are communities that are still, Russian Orthodox or Muslim or whatever.
Yeah, they just have to go to like a specifically sanctioned like prayer building at a certain time, which they like time lease out of this corporation, which does all of the different like prayer services.
Well, I mean, you can avoid this company completely, right? You can practice religion as your culture has for 1,000 years, like in your home with your family and your people. No corporation will ever be able to eliminate culture. It's just not possible. But what it can do, and what their jam is to get at people before that and replace the culture. They want, when you think
They
of
want
religion,
to co-opt your culture.
yeah,
right?
they co-opt it. Exactly. Yeah. So there are like mosque themed places of worship, right? A place of worship in like, capital P, capital W is a thing that you pay like a fee to use and you lease from this company. And it's like mosque themed, and it's sort of like Islam-esque, but it isn't, right? They would never use those words. That's off brand, because it's all one faith. Unity. We are all together in this thing. My God is your God, but it's not even about God. Like, God is probably off brand for this company, because
That makes sense.
nothing should be higher than the corporation, right? And the corporation's kind of fake thing is you are God, right? There is this kind of Gnostic, like, you are born into ignorance, and perhaps you can awaken your own deification, right? There is no God but you.
God.
And that plays right into, people want to hear that shit. That plays right into the cyberpunk idea of like, yes, you're poor. Give us the small amounts of money you have now, so we will reassure you that maybe you're not meant to be poor. Maybe you're just a temporarily disgraced deity, that we
you're
all
just
are.
Minor setback.
The board of directors and like the corridor that has portraits of all the board of directors like changes and stuff as you like view it based on the data they've collected on your like cultural faith. So like some people will see
Oh
the
my God,
pictures and
religious
they'll have like the
leaderboards.
sun discs like behind them. Some of them will have like other arms, and like some of them will be in like specific styles and stuff. It'll be like really, really
I
fucked up.
super like the idea of, yeah, of like religious leaderboards too. Like the like the
Oh my
company
god.
keeps track of people's exceptionalness, and like if you worship hard, you know, the company you'll be put on the board of directors because you know you've paid a bunch, and like it's exactly again in the Scientology, the Thetan level fucking I'm a level 12 Scientologist thing.
Yeah.
So
Like-
so
12 billion credits and you're like Pope level. You get the Pope experience.
Well, yeah, and I think the idea here is that it's taken all of the world's major faiths, co-opted, like all of the faiths still exist. They're just not corporatized in this way, so they don't have this mainstream appeal because the state doesn't exist to back them up. Religion has become, faith has become an underground thing. It's become a cultural thing. But this company has created a mushy pablum of all of the best bits, right? It's got the kind of like woo-woo feels goodianism of like middle American Protestantism, and it has the sort of imperious sanctity of Catholicism, and it has the like, you know, so they've stolen all of this stuff and then mushed it up and made it this kind of like religious paste that you can metaphorically absorb to feel good about the spiritual side. So if you were a person who identifies as being like, look at this nasty corporate dystopia we live in, good thing I've got faith, registered trademark of Faith Co. Like, you know, it's like they're a little bit kind of against their own thing, in that like all those other corporations, you know, they don't love you like we love you.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big
You
thing.
don't buy your own package. You don't tick the boxes yourself. They tick the boxes for you and decide like based on your income and how you work whether you need to be like guilted into being
Oh
more
yeah,
faithful
psychological
or whether
profiling
you-
into being like,
Yeah.
yeah, telling you like they'll
Do you
build
need more
like
of
you
the
said
carrot
before,
or the stick?
they build you your own faith-based wellness package when you join. You do a bunch of interviewing, and they're like, all right, this person, they have all these psychologists who are like, all right, this person needs to be shamed. You need to like treat them badly so that they feel like, oh yeah, that's so good.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have your curriculum.
Yeah. So
Okay.
psychology,
Is it more
understanding people's
important to you
behavioral-
that you have like a set out doctrine, or do you have to believe you're like virtuous of your own accord and like just
Right.
decide what works
And
best for your brain?
they get hired on because they have these psychologist teams. Part of their business is understanding what humans need to manipulate them, and so they get hired on by other corporations like Disney. They probably co-designed Disney Bezos's entire like loyalty program for the like streamers and stuff, because they're like, all right, this is what this kind of person needs to feel fulfilled, and then they
and
help
then
them build that.
They're just rebranded to the different princess life paths that people go on.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
totally.
that whole
Shit.
princess life path thing is totally like manufactured and co-opted by like Faith Corporation, because
Yeah, they made it.
Bezos stuff was also about being like exceptional in very specific ways,
Mhm.
based on which like Disney character you were a streamer for.
Yeah. I can see lots of ways that this corporation ties into the other ones too.
So I totally, while we were having this conversation, came up with what I want to do now as well.
Yeah.
Side note.
Well, I think you're up because it
Yeah.
sounds like
Am
we've
I?
wrapped up
Am
this
I at
one.
the time?
I think we're good on this one. Dave, do you feel like we've sufficiently explored enough to get us started on this?
Yeah, in terms of name, I'm still not super sure. Like Faith just seems fine on its own because we've actually extrapolated it to the level where you have a faith leaderboard, and if
Yeah,
you are more faith,
Faith trademark.
Yeah, totally.
it's just in capitals.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
I like that for now. Faith. And then low registered trademark. Good.
Yep.
Good.
In running counter to this whole faith idea, is a corporation that is all about their own end game, and their own end game is the development of a something, probably computer based or robot based, that is more efficient at running everything and doing everything than humans are. They are like the AI corporation. Like they want to move towards like everything being synthetic and preserving the planet that we're on by no use of resources, through no consumption, through
Or like zero sum consumption.
Yeah,
And AI
exactly.
logistics. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like automation and
It's the cult of the machine god.
I mean, I guess
It sounds like super cool. I'm into it. Super into it.
So that's
we talked a little bit, and let's refresh our minds on this stuff. AI don't exist in this world, right? We haven't. Yeah, there's no actualized intelligent.
That isn't to say that they haven't said there's one,
or that they are still working.
Or that they're not working towards one.
Right. So that's part of their deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the only corporation, like you say, that has an end game at the moment, because the rest of them are just increasing numbers and revenue. This one is actually generating funds for it.
Corporations generally don't have an end game except get bigger, eat other corporations, become more powerful.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. By the end of their end game, they will have the best option for everything, because they will be, the most efficient, the cheapest, the smartest at everything. That's the idea. And I imagine them to be bankers at this point in time, or to be some kind of like financial institution, if only because that would mean that other corporations would have to interact with them in a way that would get them the resources that they need to continue their research. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see the connection between the two. What services do they offer? What do they do? How do people interact with them in the world?
So I would imagine that a lot of what they develop are like the best ways to automate your everyday life. The stuff that you don't want to think about. You can get that done by, those cleaning robots that automatically
so automation is their thing. Automation by way of hardware and software, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I mean, I don't think if the banking thing is what you want them to connect to the other corps by, I don't know that you necessarily need that, because
maybe I don't. Yeah.
Creating automation protocols and whatever is something that everybody wants, because humans are still like expensive compared to a robot that will be loyal and efficient.
That's true. And we're not talking about like piloted robots. We're talking about like straight up like automated. They have a task, they execute that task, they're done.
Right. And the idea here is ultimately to create not an AI in human's image, but like a more efficient intelligence, a thing that can like operate on its own.
Yeah, ultimately to create like a grand system that will run all of these things on its own without any input.
Cool.
Yeah, that just makes the world function, and then humans can just kind of chill.
So their goal is ultimately like post-scarcity, in that they want to, and I think it's fine to have a corporation who on the surface has big plans to free humanity from having to work, right?
Yeah, that's it, basically. Like
post-labor, post-scarcity. And the thing is, we're already moving towards a post-labor society in the established fiction before this corporation existed.
Yeah.
It's just that it's like dystopically post-labor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they just don't have any of the nets to actually allow people to continue existing post-labor.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of this corp ostensibly is trying to put into place by nature
is trying to make money off of selling to people that they will do this.
Yeah, well, because they need money to be able to build these like hyper complex protocols.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's the the thing that's really like that they're lauded for is like the programming side of it, rather than the
they develop very high quality like neural network quote unquote AIs, or like
because I mean, if you want fancy cybernetics, you're gonna go to like Elixir. If you want like military stuff, you're probably gonna go to Freyr.
Well, Freyr, but, like, the thing is, Freyr doesn't do the same. Like those Freyr drones that you had probably have programming from this corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like their firmware. And
Freyr
stuff.
makes the drones, but they don't make the software necessarily, or they white label it from this other corporation.
Yeah. And I think I would call them something like Aether Corp or Aether Technologies or something like that, because it's like that whole like there's something behind all of this physicality.
Yeah, I like that. I like Aether Technology.
And because, of course, their technology is light as a feather, and once you don't have to work, everything
That's
is
right. Exactly. Yeah, everything. Yeah,
and,
free yourself from your burdens. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
So
Yeah, it's
I think
perfect.
that's probably my contribution there.
Do they, as part of their marketing materials, go for the cliche that we're actually probably already run by an AI? Obviously, they're not because it doesn't exist. But
Definitely,
they try and like
100%.
hint at
They push the thought that like actually they're already run by something more efficient than you could ever be.
The thing is, for them to operate, like they talk all the time about like, you know, our company is run by, you know, 99% efficient, whatever. Like we've just eliminated the HR department.
Yeah, we don't need them anymore.
You know, like, yeah, they're really proud of being able to eliminate jobs, and I think they have like a fairly low by comparison number of actual employees.
Yeah.
And they think it's a good thing, where they're like, they don't, when someone's like, we're going to create jobs, they're like, boo, don't create jobs. Who wants jobs? We create freedom.
We create freedom and automation and the stuff you'll need once you're free from work.
Yeah, work sucks. We know.
You need a monthly stipend of like whatever the things here.
I think that's the question, right? Is that like there's definitely a step 1, robots. Step 3, utopia. Step 2, question marks. Because we're in that place now where they're like, eliminate your entire whatever department by purchasing this software thing. And then the corporation is like, awesome. And then the people are like, yeah, but where are we going to get money? And there's no one to answer that because no one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
I don't know. Go die in a gutter. Like, just hang on until you
listen. We have our vision.
Yeah, they don't care. No one cares about that. That's the thing about cyberpunk is no one cares. Like, if you lose your job because you were replaced by an AI process from Ether Technologies, too bad for you, I guess. Like, you're free now. You can do whatever you want. And they're like, yeah, but what about starving to death? They're like, if you want to.
Yeah.
Like,
you
if you don't
clearly want that. If you didn't want that, you would find a job, or you would have other skills already. You would have been born in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Get wrecked, nerd.
If you didn't want that, you'd still be working for us.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Is that like the idea of I like the idea of them being from the outset like having these lofty goals, because there's lots of companies that are like this in real life where it's like we're gonna make things great by doing this thing, and then people are like, yeah, but what about the practical shit in between now and when you do the thing? And they're like, that's not our problem.
I prefer not to think about that because I can't fit that into a slogan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm too busy making your future to worry about you starving to death now.
That's their slogan. We make your future.
You may as well just put that as the logo over San Francisco, Adam. If you just put a giant billboard, this is like...
Right. Well, and the idea here would be that maybe traditionally we would lean back on being like, but like, this is why the government exists, but there are none. So too bad. Yeah. Like, who's going to take care of you? I don't know. That's not my problem.
This is just making me upset about how the world actually is. Can we stop describing this company now?
Yeah, move on. Somebody else.
So again, the point of sci-fi is not to imagine the future, but to better understand the present.
Better understand the present, yeah.
So, yeah, like I have an idea for a corporation. We've seen it already. I would love to expand on it. You want to talk about a corporation that does care about you? Let's talk about Hasty Mart. Hasty Mart cares.
Hasty Mart definitely does care.
Hasty Mart super cares about you. Hasty Mart has been providing delicious snack foods, guns, fuel, 3D printing services, legal services, banking, anything you need. Come on down to Hasty Mart.
Everything.
We'll take care of you. Human employees. So yeah, I mean, I wanna expand on the idea of like what would happen in the cyberpunk future if like 7-Eleven and Walmart like merged and became this like convenience mega corporation about serving people like basic, boring, dumb human crap, but secretly was like, you know, fucking they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing there is that they're very pointedly for the everyman, as opposed to Elixir very pointedly being like high
for the elite,
high stuff. And Hasty Mart is just like, no, like we're here for you.
Yeah, there's a Hasty Mart on every corner. People have their birthday parties in Hasty Mart. I was born in a Hasty Mart. Like, you know, like it's very much this thing where, like, I was thinking about this. The other day I went to see a movie, and I was walking through the movie theater, and they have these little like closed off glass rooms where you can have your birthday, like a little kid can have their birthday at the movie theater. And I was like thinking about my childhood, and I was thinking about how when I was like 7 or 8, I had a birthday party at McDonald's. So there are these pictures of me, like, and all my little friends with like Ronald McDonald hats and little like Grimace bibs, and like hanging out in the McDonald's, having a great time eating birthday cake and stuff. And I was like, that is a memory that like someone at McDonald's intentionally like corporatized so that later in my life I would have positive memory associations with like good
and you wanna
times in
eat at
McDonald's. And like that shit, Hasty Mart is all about that. They want you to like,
Wow.
you have your like all the best things in your life happen at the Hasty Mart. And so all their advertising campaigns would be like tying Hasty Mart to shit that people associate with like positive life moments, right? Like,
Yeah, like they have the Hasty Mart gnome handing a canned beverage to a member of the riot squad.
exactly, right? Like, yeah. Yes.
They
Yeah.
really have
Hasty Mart is also the shop that has explosives as a security device, so that if the Hasty Mart is compromised, it'll blow up. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like it's definitely about it's a lifestyle brand, much in the same way that Elixir is, but at the low end, right? Like no one in the world cares about you, right? These big mega corporations, they don't care about you. What, you think you're ever going to be able to afford that Elixir supercar? No. Buy a cardboard Hasty Mart car. We care. Safety.
It's disposable
security.
for your convenience.
Exactly. Yeah. Convenience is a big word. Like that's a very big one.
It has
Yeah.
7 crumple zones for safety. Look,
Yeah.
I'm crumpling it right now.
Yeah.
Cardboard card. Like, fold it up and throw it away.
Yeah. Family values.
I'm totally imagining Hasty Mart's got like the Vegas wedding chapel stuff.
Oh
going
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a hasty wedding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because that's like the big like happy memory. Remember when you got married? It was great, and it was at a Hasty Mart.
And it has that like formulaic wedding photo that they always, and you can like pick the overlays.
Yeah.
like,
All Hasty Mart employees are ordained by Faithco to perform weddings. So if you fall in love in a Hasty Mart, we can get you hitched. Would you like to buy this Hasty Mart engagement ring? We
and
3D
that-
printed it just for you. Careful,
And they
it's
have the
still warm.
like testimonials for it where it's like, yeah, me and Sharon got married at this Hasty Mart, like, and your photo is in the Hasty Mart forever.
Everything good in life
When you get
happens in a
married there.
Hasty Mart.
Well, it's in the
Yeah.
Hasty Mart forever, but really it just detects when you enter and it changes.
Yeah, and it shows it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea here is that like you can live your whole life. Hasty Mart will provide everything that you need, so that you can go to your hard job and you can come home and you can have a hasty beer with your hasty kids, and your family can eat dinner around the TV. Like it's this very kind of like, don't worry, we've got your back. And they definitely have like insurance and like all that kind of stuff because they care about you. They just want you to be protected.
And they want you to be able to be protected right when you feel that, deep gnawing sense of fear of your own mortality. And the instant you feel that, they want to be selling you insurance.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I see this as being a very conservative, like old school values kind of company.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like
Which
very
isn't
old timey oriented.
which isn't to
right?
say that they're not willing to, because like the Hasty Marts in like rural China are like old timey, not in an American way, but in a like, this is what you grew up expecting, right? Like this is what a Hasty Mart looks like in your culture, and it's safe and it's okay for you. But there is a cosmopolitan Hasty Mart thing that does a lot of that ID scanning, and they profile their people. So when you go in, your AR is going to look different from everybody else's because they know that when you walk into a Hasty Mart, you don't want a brown person serving you, you racist. But that's okay,
God
Like
damn it.
and that's the thing. Like this is the kind of corporation. They're evil. Corporations are evil. They will do this. But that's the thing, right?
Well,
Yeah,
and
they play into your lowest. Yeah.
Well, and every Hasty Mart has the same like blank layout that the AR over it is made to make you feel that like comforting, like this is my Hasty Mart overlay and it's different from yours and it's different from
Oh my
yours.
god, there's totally runner groups and stuff that do interviews because like the soldier of each group or whoever the plan maker is, and you have to submit like your Hasty Mart like doomsday plan or your Hasty Mart like attack plan because they're all exactly the same and like really basic, and you have to like, okay, these are my tactics for like assaulting a Hasty Mart. This is how we would go in and defuse the bomb if we accidentally like compromise the security of a Hasty Mart. And they just like look slightly different, but they're all exactly the same. And they get like rocketed in or like drilled up from the ground or something. Like
Yeah, well, that's
ridiculous.
definitely a thing, right? Like part of their jam is like there's a Hasty Mart everywhere, and so like
in every war zone, a Hasty
exactly.
Mart.
And there's a lot of, especially right now during this kind of like, you know, Middle American Dust Bowl crisis thing. There's a lot of imagery of like brave corporate soldiers. You know, if you're like sitting at home in your ecology in Sudan, and your wife has gone off to fight in the Dust Bowl wars, and you're feeling anxious, you can look at these pictures on TV or on the Matrix or whatever of like these soldiers in the war relaxing in a nice air conditioned Hasty Mart that's been airdropped into some war zone. You know, they're drinking coffee, they're smiling, they're laughing. You know that in a Hasty Mart, you are safe, even if it's in the worst hellhole in the universe.
They totally do like FaceTime things as well with VR. So they can go to their Hasty Mart and you can go to your Hasty Mart and you can reconnect by pretend sitting at the same booth together to eat while they're like displayed in front of you. It's like, we feel safe now because we're together, because we're
In a
both
Hasty
hasty
Mart.
I like
people.
that. I like that on brand, like safety is like a part of their thing.
And yet they explode
Well, they explode
your
to keep you
safety.
safe. Yeah.
for your safety,
Yeah.
of course.
Right? Like, and there's definitely like press releases and stuff of like, if someone dies in a Hasty Mart explosion, their family is like taken care of forever, unless they can find some reason that like, this is the digging up, like we were, you know, your family member died in a Hasty Mart explosion, but Hasty Corporation puts out news about how like, yeah, but you know, didn't they drop out of high school and didn't they have like a drug problem? And maybe they're just like, shouldn't have been there in the first place. Maybe we're just going to imply that it might have been their fault that it blew up in the first place. But like, yeah, everything they do it because they want to like, you know, take care of you. They want to like look after you.
Yeah, and it just depends whether it's easier to be like, oh no, they died in this explosion, come to the Hasty Mart funeral.
Oh
like,
yeah,
of the one that
totally.
we replace it with.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean,
It's
I'm
in
sure
exactly the same spot.
I'm
as
sure
well.
that's a thing, right? In that like they have this whole thing where you can live your whole life. Everything you need is a Hasty Mart. You can be born in a Hasty Mart. You can go to one of the Hasty Doc units if you're feeling sick. You can meet your sweetheart in a Hasty Mart, get married, have your own kids. You can die in a Hasty Mart. Everything in the world that you need, all the stuff. And if we don't have it, you don't need it. Like that elixir stuff, it's too fancy. Like those Freyr, you don't need that stuff.
I've come up with their slogan, and it's think Hasty Mart, think safety, smart.
Nice.
super
It
good.
rhymes, so easy to remember. Oh, that's really good. Yeah. So Hasty Mart. I think the other thing that I wanted to add in, just as a side note, because it was something that we talked about way back at the beginning of the game, we haven't really done much. Because Hasty Mart is the people's corporation, because they want you to be able, even if you, I don't know, lost your job because Aether Corporation had you and your entire department replaced. Even if you don't have a job, even if you don't have creds, you can still get what you need at Hasty Mart. We're just going to need to scrape your emotions a little bit.
Yes.
So I think that Hasty Cred is a thing, and like, you know, they pay a lot for advertising, and the same, it's like a Money Mart, but for your feelings. So if you can't afford to eat, you can come into a Hasty Mart. We will scrape your emotions, and then you will leave feeling calm and placid and with a delicious Hasty burger for you and your 12 kids.
And here's the thing,
You're not
Adam,
anxious anymore.
Yeah.
So like it's fine.
and that's why they want you to always have these happy feelings about Hasty Mart,
That's
right?
right.
Because then those are on hand for them to scrape off of you when you go in, right? That like
It's so
nostalgic,
perfect.
vaguely pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
They like deliberately incept it into you so that they can harvest it out of you later.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, anyone who's ever been scraped at a Hasty Mart, like you get a little. They don't. It's not just take. They give you. They do a little reprogramming where they're like, you enjoyed this experience. This is fine. You feel okay. You love Hasty Mart. Come on
Well,
back now.
Your Hasty burger has like, you know, something that releases dopamine.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
like,
part of the medical procedure, right? Like they
Yeah.
give you a nice calming Hasty shake before the procedure. It's like the pre-op. You do the thing during your operation, and then post-operative, you leave, and they give you the burger, and the burger is full of like chemicals and like hormones and stuff that like affect the way your brain and body process the scraping thing. So you kind of get like addicted to getting scraped.
Yeah.
I love this so much. This is the best.
Hasty Mart, please.
Oh my god, they're amazing. Great. Okay. Fantastic. Hasty Mart.
Can we make characters now?
Yeah, let's take a break and then
After
we'll
break.
we'll come back and we will make some characters. I just wanted to make sure, Blue Jay, do you feel okay not having like created a whole corporation but have like established a
Yeah,
bunch of stuff
no,
with
no,
the
no,
Matrix?
it's totally fine. I just had like, it was literally the most basic of ideas.
I have,
like,
well, the thing is, I have as many notes on the stuff that you were saying as I do on all the corporations, and I think that we can just apply all of that to like.
To like the
Totally
Matrix.
fine.
Yeah.
totally
yeah.
fine with that. Yep.
All right, cool. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll take a short break, and then come on back for your Hasty Mart regulated daily scraping. See you soon, everybody.